In this segment, we're going to cover installing the hose. What we want to do is just do the reverse procedure of what we just accomplished in removing the hose. With your new fittings, I've already slid one on the banjo fitting. I'm going to insert that through and install my new washer on the other end. And then I want to get this fitting started. Okay, once you've got it started, go ahead and tighten it down with hand tightness as far as you can. Then grab your socket or wrench, whatever you happen to be using. Go ahead, tighten it all the way up. Banjo fittings are pretty tight because you've got to compress those two compression fitting washers to get a good seal. And there you go. And you don't want to use the old rings in there at any time because they have rings around there to form grooves for extra sealing capability, and by replacing and using an old washer again, if you don't catch the same grooves exactly, it'll make it extremely difficult to seal. Then I just slide the middle portion into the bracket where I don't need to fasten it, just where it's supposed to go. And then I want to slide the other end up through that fitting, the bracket that it's held to with the clip, and then insert the steel brake line into it and go ahead and tighten it down as far as you can by hand. As soon as you got it in, start turning. Go ahead and start tightening down. Oops, get the right wrench here. That'll help. And you want to go ahead and just snug this down to where it's tight. You don't want to try and tighten it yet until you put the clip on, because the clip will hold it a keyway into that bracket that it holds on to and prevent the lower portion from turning while you're tightening the brake hose down, or the brake line down, excuse me. If you don't do that, it's going to spin or pop out of that bracket or damage it. So we just want to snug it down to where it's tight and it stops the leaking. Because once again, we're on a time frame. We don't want to go too long. And if you've had any difficulties getting it started, which can sometimes happen, just make sure, any question in your mind, check the level of the brake fluid. And if it gets down past the halfway, add some fluid to it. Don't take any chances. Quite literally, if you let that cylinder dry out, you're looking at close to an extra 30 minutes of added time in bleeding the master cylinder, and a good possibility that it could be damaged in the process. Now that I've got it up in there and snug down and the leak is stopped, you're going to want to insert this clip, and it just slides on the top half of the bracket, slides into place, and clips and locks. And once that is done, that'll conclude this segment on replacing the brake lines and hoses. Okay, now we've completed removing and installing the brake hose on the passenger side. The next step, please watch our next segment, and we're going to cover checking the brake fluid. We want to top off the brake fluid again, and we're going to clean and dry the brake fittings on both sides of the vehicles. Make sure where we just worked on is all cleaned off of any of the contaminants, old brake fluid, good and clean, good and dry.